Welcome to Trial Lawyer Prep. What if you could hang out with trial lawyers and jury consultants? Ask them about connecting with clients and juries more effectively. Then take strategies, tactics, and insights to increase your success. Each week, Elizabeth Larrick takes an in-depth look at how to regain touch with the everyday world, understand the emotional burden of your clients and juries, and use focus groups in this process. Elizabeth is an experienced trial lawyer, consultant, and founder of Larrick Law Firm in Austin, Texas. Her goal is to help you connect with juries and clients in order to improve your abilities in the courtroom. Now, here's Elizabeth.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast, Trial Lawyer Prep. I am your host, Elizabeth Larrick, and I'm glad you're here today. I am going to talk about what I found on YouTube about deposition preparation. This episode came by way of a text message. I think I talked about that some clients will go and look at YouTube. There's YouTube stuff out there. Go look at it. And I had a text message from someone that said, wow, really? What's on YouTube? So I thought, okay, this will be fun. So I did a little poking around on YouTube. And again, the reason why I decided to do an episode about this is because I know that when people go look at this stuff, there's a lot of garbage out there. And I want to give it to you so you know, oh, wow, this is what people are looking at. I need to, stop them from doing that, to prepare them. But again, as always, my mantra is to take the time to prepare your client one-on-one. Don't let YouTube or TikTok or Instagram prepare your client. And also, if you're working with your client and you're doing one-on-one, be sure and ask them if they have looked up things online, and then politely ask them to not do that. And so hopefully there's some things in this video that will help you convince them, if they are unconvinced, that they can't get a hold of you, get answers from you, or they don't like your answers. There's a reason why not to look it up. Now, I've also had clients who basically refuse to take my advice on that, which then makes you think about, this is a client management issue. Is this really a person who's ever going to follow my advice when it comes to their case? That is a topic for a different episode. So let's jump in really fast. This shouldn't be a very long episode, but I hope that you find it somewhat entertaining. Okay, so I went to YouTube and just did a simple search, how to prepare for deposition, ? Right? Not even your deposition. And so, of course, what pops up, there are thousands and thousands of videos on this topic. And if you have searched YouTube lately for anything, you get long videos, you get the shorts, you even get TikToks that are on there. And so it's just scroll nonstop. And some of this stuff is pretty scary as you get more depth into it. The most watched video was actually uploaded 12 years ago. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So just think 12 years of stuff, some stuff that probably doesn't apply anymore. But anyhow, lots of videos out there. There are tons of things for people to pick from. The second thing that I noticed when I did this search was there's title after title: win your deposition, crush your deposition, acing your deposition. And some of these videos with these really short, catchy titles are 4 minutes long. And you're thinking, wait a second, how does somebody do that in 4 minutes? The shorter the video, the more likely someone's actually going to watch it. And if there's whatever somewhat looks put together video, people are probably going to watch it. There was a couple other ones that I saw, the power of saying, I don't know. This one we'll talk about a little more in depth. And if you rearrange the filter, you can see, again, what are the top watched videos. That particular video, the power of saying, I don't know, was in the top 3. Another one of those titles, The Perfect Witness. And that one it was in the top, I think 4 or 5 with 157,000 views. And that one I actually clicked to watch a little of, and it's an hour long. It is not a recent video, I will tell you. It's got to be at least 10, 15 years old. It's very interesting, I will say. And like most things, what I'll talk about does not have a lot of context, a specificity. One of the other titles that I saw that I wanted to tell you about was Why Insurance Companies Want to Take Your Deposition, Hint, to Pay You Less Money. Lots of ones about deposition tricks. As you're looking through here, rather say, as I was looking through, there's no real distinction of ones that are for like client depositions to prepare and ones that are for lawyers. They're all mixed in there. Of course, some of the ones that I'm talking about where these titles have to do for clients. Third thing that I noticed was we had either very older looking male lawyers in suits. Some of them didn't have a suit on, but they had a shirt and a tie, in front of a bunch of books. And then very young looking lawyers. There's a lawyer out there, Jarrett Stone, who he's in a t-shirt and he does all his videos that way. So it's like casual and then versus on up to suits. And again, you don't know if any of these people are lawyers. They never say, I'm a lawyer. Some do, some of them don't. But that's another one of those things where it's just, these people are lawyers. All right. So let's talk about some of the advice that I heard, because I did watch several videos, of course, not all the way through, but some of the shorter ones and some of the more popular ones. And a lot of the advice was the same, right? One of them was don't stress. Don't stress about it. And we even went so far as to say, to help a client not stress, I tell them that I'm just going to wear business casual, right? I'm not even going to wear a suit. Okay, sure. Another one that I heard many times, which was you need to learn to pause before you answer a question because your lawyer needs to object. Okay, all right. So we're just going to learn to pause. Another one that I heard was that you, the witness, should anticipate the questions, right? If you sit down and prepare by looking at documents, you should be able to anticipate the lawyer questions. Found that one interesting. Of course, don't lie as part of the advice. Don't guess, part of the advice. Listen to the objections of your lawyer and try to decipher the message that is being sent to you. Be short. Be concise with your answers, right? Don't overshare. Only answer the question asked. I love this one because and here's the thing, we'll talk about why I have why I have a lot of problems with this advice. There's no examples here. 0 examples in these videos. And that is normally like the only answer the question asked is almost always followed with make the other lawyer work for your answers. Again, no examples here. Okay. The other one, of course, we talked about this whole video on it. Say, I don't know. Say, I don't recall. Another one that I thought was interesting that wasn't in a lot of videos, which was defer to your experts. Okay, sure. Another one went on for about 5 minutes about, I think that was the whole thing was you need to be nice. You need to be polite. You need to be calm, no matter what happens, because that means you're credible. That means that you don't mind this litigation, that it's just no big deal, and that you are so likable. And I just thought, who else was really calm and polite and nice? Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay. So doing those things alone doesn't mean you're credible or that you don't mind litigation. Interesting video. And then, of course, last piece of advice that I saw in almost all of them was listen attentively to the questions. Of course, followed up with only answer the questions being asked. In all of these videos, nearly every single one of them, without skipping a beat, we'll talk about what a deposition is right at the beginning. And again, this goes back to, I've said this before, this whole what I call a sit and suffer approach, which is basically a deposition is where the lawyers from the other side get to ask you questions under oath with a court reporter. Okay, that's literally what it is. Nobody talks about the purpose, although there was one on there with the title on there. But anyhow, it's such a recipe for disaster. But before I totally talk about that, let me just talk about just a couple of problems just from the place of thinking, if I'm a client, I'm a person who's never done a deposition and I've got to go be deposed. And that's why I get a text message. I get the email. We need to schedule your deposition. Okay. They want to take your deposition. Okay. And that's all you get. Give me dates. Let me have dates. Okay. So they're just out on the web trying to find information. I know from statistics that YouTube is the number one social media and search, right? Number one in all age groups. YouTube is the tip top. Okay. So we know they're going to YouTube. So they're looking through this stuff. And first thing I would say is there's absolutely no context for them. Very few of these videos will say, this is for someone facing a family law deposition. This is for someone in a corporate law. This is somebody for a business lawsuit. This is someone who is in a personal injury lawsuit. Now, there are a few that had workers' comp in the title, which would be helpful. But again, if you're just going from the top down, or most people do, what's the top viewed stuff, like none of those have any context in it. And again, I also mentioned earlier, as a client looking through this, it's hard to decipher which one is for lawyers and which one is for people. And again, our clients aren't going to know the difference. They could spend a lot of time on there just trying to figure it out. And you're thinking, why does that matter if all the advice is truly the same, Elizabeth? It's all good advice here. And I would just say that really underprepares them. Somebody going in for a family law deposition is going to have a rude awakening compared to a civil litigation deposition, right? They're very different styles of questioning and types of questions. And so again, there's just very little context. And the other problem that I would have from a client's perspective is very little examples or explanation at all. So that leaves the client to guess, how does that apply in my situation? Again, answer the question asked. Give me some examples of questions where people have gone on. And one example that a lawyer gave was, how was your vacation last week? Okay, well, if the person goes on and on about their vacation, guess what? That's not going to hurt the case. We need examples where somebody might be oversharing that significantly hurts their testimony. Okay, but they don't do that. Why? Because again, we're getting further into preparation where we're obviously doing lawyer work, not just being very general. And that's the other thing. These are super general. No examples, no explanation. A lot of these videos have legal jargon with no explanation, which leaves your client guessing. No one explains what an objection is to any of these things. All of them say that the lawyer needs to object. And before you answer, you need to make sure it's a question that you can answer legally. And that's your lawyer's job. Just hold on here. Again, in some states, okay, maybe. In some countries, okay, maybe. But here in Texas, like 99% of things are going to pass muster and you got to answer them. So to give somebody that impression that they may not have to answer questions is really not helpful. And again, at the end of the day, most of the stuff is extremely general. Okay. And again, because as lawyers, we're making these videos, that don't give lawyer advice, but it's lawyers giving advice. And it's so general, and it's such a problematic to me from my point of view. And again, if you're thinking like my client's got the attention span of a gnat, this stuff is all on TikTok. Okay. So imagine it in shorter formats with less context and even less explanation. All right. So let's take this dog down the road and say, okay, really, Elizabeth, what's the problem here? It looks like I've got a proactive client. If they're going to go and watch these videos, learn more about it. This seems like a proactive person, research. Okay, cool. Let's take one of our very top of view videos, right? The power of saying, I don't know. And your client watches it and you don't know that they've watched it. You gave them 30 minutes of preparation with some of the same reinforced advice that they got for the video. So this reinforces the video must be true and correct. They get their deposition and it's one, I don't know, after another. And some of it you're okay with them. And then you start to realize like there's stuff that they do know that they're just not answering because they think that I don't know is what they're supposed to do because it's powerful. So it's this video told of some lawyer, right? And as opposing counsel, you can get two roads, probably three, but we'll just talk about two here. One is sometimes lawyers just stop the deposition, say, hey, looks like we might need to reconvene because you're telling me you don't know, but yet you answered this question in your discovery answers or when you're talking to the witness that day. Or stop and go talk to the judge. Or the other avenue, which is keep going and completely lock your client into knowing absolutely nothing. They know nothing about their case, which then they think, great, I'll see you in trial because we're not ever going to settle this thing. And we'll play this in front of the jury and see what happens. So that's one example of a problem. Like, you don't want your client to follow this super general advice when that's not always going to be, that's not going to always serve it very well. So just know that this stuff is out there. Just know that people will take it hook, line, and sinker. The other thing I did here was I just looked at some of the comments. And all the comments, this is so great. Thank you so much. I have much less worry about it. And I'm just like, oh man, and yikes, because they don't have any context, right? They're trying to fill that void for information. So again, going back to what's the purpose of this episode? Hey, again, let me urge you to take the time to prepare your client 101. Do more than that 30-minute shot at people. Don't let YouTube or TikTok prepare your client. There's going to be a misstep there. And it may not be correctable. The other thing is ask folks if they're looking stuff up online, right? And then kindly remind them not to do that, especially when it comes to depositions. One thing we didn't talk about, and one of the ideas that I had was to put together some of the top depositions that are on YouTube, because there are a lot. If you just go try to find depositions to watch depositions, the worst of the worst are on there, and put it on the website, my website, so you can just watch it and go see, wow, this is the stuff that's on there. Clients are not deciphering. They don't know which is good, which is bad. And this looks like this is a celebrity and they seem to be doing it and it seems to be fine. Again, that whole context thing. One other thing I will give as an example is I recently was preparing a client for trial, and their research and getting ready for trial and trial testimony, he had watched hours and hours of trial on YouTube. He'd watched the Johnny Depp trial. He had watched the Murdoch trial. And again, he wasn't going in for a defamation case or a murder case. And so that was his examples, right? That was his fallback. And in his mind, what was good and what was bad. And so it got ingrained. So it's hard to go back and say, okay, well, that's not really what will be necessary here. That may work there for Johnny Depp, but that doesn't work here in a personal injury case. So just keep that in mind, because they will get in their mind what is good, what works, because it worked for in this video for this person, right? But that may not work for them in their case. So I like to say that personalized preparation is the way to go. So I hope that you found this helpful, and thank you so much for listening. Rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, thank you so much.